Both candidates have had these rules for some time and trying to be as even-handed as we can here tonight. But we want audience participation as well, with as minimal as no fruit being thrown up here, no soft objects, no kicking, biting, and scratching.
No shoes.
No shoes thrown. So let me just lay out the procedure we'll have here tonight and your opportunity to participate. We did one of these this forum almost exactly a year ago for a state party chair when the SREC filled the vacancy. And we have got a lot of questions that were submitted then by SREC members. JC and I have done those, as well as worked up some county-specific questions. So we've got a number, probably more questions than we can ask. But we want your questions too, definitely to be part of this. So but we will ask the questions. You have the bucket there already. So you've got note cards. If you haven't already filled out a note card with a question, looks like we've got a lot to go through. Oh, good. We'll be here late. We're going to finish by 8. The goal is finish by about 8:40 or 8:45 or so. So we're not going to be here all night. Blackwell has a great saying, Leadership Institute, that the mind can absorb no more than the seat can endure. So we're not going to be here too late. And after a while, I think you'll get the information you need to make your choices in this very important election. So the procedure is going to be like this. The candidates are going to start. We're going to alternate questions going back and forth. One's going to start with an opening, and the next one will have an opening statement. Then we'll go into questions. And then at the end, the one who started off will do the initial closing, and then the other candidate will do the final closing. So Cindy Asche is going to open up to a 5-minute opening speech in a minute, and then followed by James Dickey, and then JC and I will alternate back and forth with questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute, up to 1 minute to answer the question, and the question should be, we're trying to be even-handed questions applying to both as possible. So they have 60 seconds each to answer that question, and then each has a chance after that to a 30-second rebuttal. We have timekeepers up front. A political director, Donna Standard, is timekeeper. Yay, Donna. Organizational director Hannah Nathan will flash the 15-second sign when time's approaching. So y'all are free to walk around. You have handheld mics. We think there won't be too much feedback when you get out here, so feel free to walk around as much as you can for answering the questions. And so we will alternate a number of questions on a number of topics, and we have a lot to collate here as well. And at one point, the candidates will get to ask, each gets to ask the other a question as well that they want to pose. So, any questions on the procedure? Right. Well, we'll get started then, and we will open now with, make sure we're on Facebook, thank you. And we welcome the audience out there. We wish everybody could participate, but there's only so many hours in the evening. So we're glad everybody can participate here and online, so thank you all for being here. Oh, I forgot to mention, did y'all hear there was an election yesterday? Apparently, some guy named Crenshaw won that nomination too on CDC. Y'all heard about this blue wave? No. It's a ripple, folks, at the best. The Democrats' gubernatorial runoff, in which they nominated this wonderful candidate out of Dallas, Lupe Valdez, was actually the lowest turnout in the Democrat runoff in almost a century. Democrat gubernatorial runoff. They're so disheartened about their candidate. Meantime, I don't know if y'all were at the Crenshaw event last night after Dan Crenshaw became a runner. We had hundreds of people there. We had great turnout across the county in a number of races. I think it shows a lot of enthusiasm on our side. We're very pumped about being able to send John Culberson back to Congress this year as well. There's no way the Democrats are going to win that district. But we're going to have to turn out our voters everywhere. We've got to rack up huge margins, particularly in Republican areas, to make sure we keep Harris County Republican. So we'll be working all year on that, and I certainly appreciate all y'all do for that effort. So thank you for looking forward to. Once this is over, we got now in November to be busy. So I appreciate y'all being here and wanting to pitch into that effort. So with that, we'll move on to opening statements actually ahead of schedule. Cindy Asche, you have 5 minutes to speak.
Well, good evening. It is great to be back in Houston. Thank you all so much for coming out. I've got to say that you guys, because you're sitting in this room, you are true grassroots Republicans, and we are so thankful for the job that you do every day, getting folks to turn out and vote Republican. I am Cindy Asche, and I am running to be your next chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. I love to introduce myself by saying I am a Christian, conservative, Republican, and one more that even Vice President Pence can't add, and that is that I am a woman. My husband Fritz and I were honored to attend the inauguration of President Donald Trump. It had been my great joy to work on the Mighty Texas Strike Force, an organization that was credited by Donald Trump Jr. as being the organization that probably put Donald Trump over the top, because we sent strike force teams all across this country, Florida, Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, all those places that we knew were going to be critical to turn out the vote and elect the next Republican president. My husband and I were at the inauguration, and the next day I decided to take him to a museum so that he could get some information for his kids. He's a teacher. He teaches history and government, and we ended up, sadly, one subway stop short of where we planned to be, and we're in the very middle of the very first Pink Hat March. Fritz in his cowboy hat and boots, me wearing my Donald Trump Make America Great Again stuff. We stood out, folks, I mean to tell you. And it was at that point that I knew, as a Republican, that we have got to do more. We have got to be energized. We have got to captivate with our message. We have got to activate our voters, and we have got to motivate people to turn out and vote Republican, because those people in those pink hats with the signs, with the foul language, the most vulgar things I have ever seen in public with their young children, those people, especially those women, ladies, do not speak for us. So a little bit about me. My professional background, my first degree is in business, and I got out and worked a couple of years after I graduated from Baylor, but my first love was always medicine. So I decided to go back and get a nursing degree from the University of Texas, even though my Baylor parents can't stand that place. And I worked 32 hours every weekend to put myself through the University of Texas to get my nursing degree, because I didn't know there was another way besides earning the money to put yourself through school. My profession as being a nurse, my specialty was in ER and trauma. But because of that business degree, I was honored to be able to serve as a trauma coordinator, as a unit manager, and finally as a manager of 3 different departments in some of the biggest ERs and trauma departments across the state. You might have heard of a couple of them. I was the trauma coordinator at Brackenridge Hospital in Austin. I went to a place after decided that Austin's trauma wasn't big and bad enough, so I needed to move to the big town of Dallas and go to this little place called Parkland Hospital. It's kind of like Ben Taub down in Houston, they tell me. Worked at Parkland for 6 years as one of the unit managers there, and then finally managed the emergency department, our observation unit, and our flight program at Medical City Hospital, Dallas. The reason that's important is because over the years I have managed hundreds of employees, hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in budget. So I absolutely have the skills necessary to bring to the Republican Party of Texas in terms of management and business experience. Politically, I attended my first precinct convention when I was 4 years old with my dad, who was campaigning for Barry Goldwater. Sorry, that tells my age. But I have been a lifelong Republican, a conservative, pro-life, pro-family Republican. I sit on the board of First Liberty Institute, an organization that defends religious liberty across this nation. You've heard of some of the cases, like the coach who knelt on the field to pray after each football game and who was fired because you certainly cannot kneel to pray in a public place on a public school field that's paid for with tax dollars. That's just wrong. I am also a proud Second Amendment supporter, a lifetime member, endowment member of the NRA. And folks, I'm telling you, they are after our rights. Every time we have a tragedy, instead of putting the blame on the evil that exists in this world, they put it squarely on the instrument that's utilized for that evil. Oh, is it time? All right. It'd be my honor to represent you as your next chairman for the Republican Party of Texas. Thank you.
All ready to start? Now, James Dickey.
Good evening. How many of y'all are going to be delegates to the convention? That is fantastic. That is exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you for your service. Thank you for playing a key role in deciding how the Republican Party of Texas is going to be run for the next couple of years. Let me take a minute to tell you a little bit about myself. And I generally don't talk about myself because this position and the party is not about me. It's about you. It's about you as the delegates deciding what's our platform that we're going to fight for, what are the rules under which we're going to operate, and who is going to be delegated your authority to represent you in the 2 years in between conventions. But I do want to tell you a little bit about myself. So my family moved Fort Worth when I was 13, so my dad could go to seminary. I grew up in an area of Fort Worth called Stop 6. Graduated from Polytechnic High School, where in the class of 206, there were 2 white guys counting me. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience, and those dear friends, I had lunch with one of them on Sunday when I was back up in the Metroplex. They influenced my life in a big way because when I left to go to Stanford, and I worked my way through Stanford, working 30, 40 hours a week, going through that, and plus scholarships and everything else I could come up with. When I was working my way through school and then got out and started working for Republican causes and Republican candidates, it broke my heart that we had not done a good job getting our message of better opportunity, better freedom, better life for all out into the communities that we had not reached before. And so that is a personal thing that I've always had. I met and married the love of my life, Linda, while at school. And we got married right after school. We've been married for 29 years. We have 3 kids who range in age from 24 to 14. We remembered now how that goes. They are wonderful kids. And my parents didn't take me to a precinct committee meeting when I was 4, but I took my daughter to a national convention when she was 4. And it was my first convention as an alternate delegate at the national level. And since 2008, the primary came, and our choice was McCain or McCain.
That's right.
And that wasn't good enough. Texas should play a bigger role than that. And so I got invested, and I participated in a precinct convention, and then I went to the Senate District Convention, and they didn't know me, so I was an alternate to the state convention in Houston in 2008. And I brought my kids who were 12 and 14, and we saw firsthand how important the rules were when there was a big credentials fight, and the rules mattered. I mean, they were decisive. And so I got hooked immediately. That there was so much you didn't know, and your impact could be so much bigger if only you did. And so I got dedicated to that, and I taught my kids that and brought them up in it. My son right now is working on Capitol Hill for a Texas Republican. It has been amazing to watch. I've been to every single convention since then. But more importantly, what I've done is try to make sure to spread the word that the Texas Republican Party is the best Republican Party there is because we are bottom up.
Right.
You, the delegates, have all the authority, all of it. And at your county level, it's the precinct chairs who have the authority. We work that way, and it's wonderful that we do. It is proper that we do. And it is powerful when we all know that and we work together. in a coordinated fashion to make that reality. And we saw just a taste of that during the special session. I had just been elected. We had a platform you guys had voted for. The governor put 10 of those items on the special session call, and we went to work, and the results were striking. We got 5 of those. We got half of them in. And the donors loved it, and the supporters loved it, and we set records in vote turnout. Democrats are having their worst year in 100 years. We are having our best year ever. We're still winning. Please vote to re-elect me and keep me as your state party chair. God bless you. God bless you.
Losing my mic.
We're all losing our minds.
All right. Thank you both for the introductions. I will lead the question. I believe we're, again, candidate A, candidate B. So Cindy, you will get the first answer. And then James, we each have a minute each, and then 30 seconds rebuttal in that order as well. And then the next question, James, you'll lead off on the answer. So, this is really, we're still the shakedown cruise, folks. New headquarters. We're working this out. So a general question to both of you, and just a comment. We did receive a lot of questions that are kind of one-sided, so we're trying not to do it to ask those. We're asking questions that are going to be directed to both candidates, and they can chime in however they feel best on any of the questions we ask. So kind of a generic question to begin with, personal. Starting with you, Cindy. What do you consider your personal strengths for this job? But also, just as important, what are your weaknesses you might have to deal with as state party chair?
So my personal strengths are my management background and the fact that I absolutely love people. That's what nurses do, is we get in the business because we love to serve. So those are my strengths. I bring significant management experience. Significant experience with everything from hiring, firing, education, compliance, training, all of those things from my background. The ability to build coalitions across 10 county areas when I was at Brackenridge as a trauma coordinator. If you can imagine, since I was an ER nurse, my toughest thing is patience. I don't like to wait for results. I like to have a plan. I am a big strategic planner. I believe in redundancy of redundancies and adding more. And so it's difficult for me to wait around for results. I like to get things done quickly.
Okay, so my biggest strength is the thing you all have seen, and it's the results I've been able to produce in fundraising for the party and in turning out votes for the party. And I will tell you, fundraising for the party is different from anything else. There is nothing harder. It is completely different from raising money to start a company. It is completely different from raising money for investors. It is completely different from any of that, because you are literally asking people to trust you that you will make a change in this world, and there's no direct payback to them. Not if you're doing it right. And so, in Travis County, well, we won't talk about how Democrats do it. In Travis County, you can imagine that was a hard sell, right? Hey, I'm from the Travis County Republican Party, would you please donate? But we raised hundreds of thousands there. We have raised over $1.2 million here just for core operations, another $1.6 million for the convention, hundreds of thousands for victory. Thank you.
Cindy, you get a 30-second rebuttal.
I get a rebuttal on that. Okay, well, let me tell you that we have different financial information than the information that you're hearing. So what we've done is we've gone back to the TEC and the FEC reports for the last year or so, and you've heard that we have record-breaking donations. That does not appear to be the case. In fact, the previous chairman had an average of $3 million in his last 9 months. Mr. Dickey has an average of $1.7 million in his last 9 months. It's a very significant difference.
Dave, you have up to executive rebuttal.
Okay, no idea where you get the $3 million in 9 months, but do notice that she compared his last 9 months to my first 9 months, which does seem kind of odd. I will tell you, in the first 11 months of him versus me, cash on hand for him went down $400,000, and cash for me went down $20,000. So you can try to spend it some other way, but the money in the bank, you can't spend.
Next question. All right. The next question, which James Dickey will start off with, being RPT chair, to grow the party across a huge state requires enormous expenditures of time and treasure. How much time, resources, and personal sacrifice can you devote to the job of RPT chair?
Well, I can continue to devote the 50, 60 hours a week that I have been devoting for a year now. And for those of you, how many of you get my weekly updates? Yeah. Okay. So if you're of the impression that I'm not spending any time on the party, you probably haven't been reading the updates. This week alone, I'll do 1,500 miles visiting all over the state. And I will be about 4.5 days on the road, not counting the times for meetings, including meetings with elected officials. So I have devoted what most people would consider full-time. And my partner and I, we joke about it. I'm only doing half-time, and we don't care which 12 hours a day that is.
All right, because it was a long question, I'll repeat it. Being RPT chair, to grow the party across a huge state requires enormous expenditures of time and treasure. How much time, resources, and personal sacrifice can you devote to the job of RPT chair?
Well, I think this is a significant difference in the two of us. So I retired from my professional nursing career last May. My license is still active, so I can still work what we call PRN hours so that I can keep them available. However, I have full-time hours available. And unlike my opponent, I also have the personal treasure available to do that. We have reviewed some of the current chairman's expenditures, and on his personal RPT credit card, he is charging back to the party for his meals. I will not do that. We have records where he is having you pay for his hamburgers. He is having you pay for his ice cream. He is having you pay for his dinners or lunches or breakfasts or whatever they are at La Madeleine. I will not do that. The time that I spend is exactly like I'm spending on the campaign. We do not charge those things to our campaign. I have to eat regardless of whether I'm at home or on the road.
Yeah, you can worry about ice cream, or you can worry about the fact that I'm spending a couple thousand less a month than my predecessor did. I actually am very proud of the fact that I choose to eat at very cheap places when I'm on the road. I, of course, could be much less fiscally responsible, like the last chairman was, but I'm not. Thank you.
Well, as Mr. Dickey told me the other day at another forum, figures don't lie. And when you look at expense reports, in 1 month he spent over $5,000. Now it's very difficult to tell folks to join the grassroots club at your $8.95 a month, and say your $8.95 just went to pay for a hamburger for the chairman. Your $8.95 just went to pay for La Madeleine's. The numbers, the figures do not add up.
Thank you both, and we'll move on to the next question. Kind of related to this topic, I guess, while we're on it. The question first starts with Cindy Asche. Will you make RPT's finances transparent and open to any Republican, or are they limited to certain people? And you could comment as well as the current status of transparency, both of you, of the party's finances.
Absolutely. It's your money. You're funding the party. You have a right to see exactly where it goes. You have a right to see what campaign consultants or what kind of consultants the RPT is using. In fact, the SREC asked for that information and they were not able to see it. We plan to be the most transparent leadership that you have seen in at least the last year. It is very, very important that you are able to see where we are spending your money, because it's not our money as the Republican Party of Texas. It's your money, and you are sending it in to do great things as Republicans across the state. So it's very important that you're able to see all of our finances. Come into the office and we'll make that available to you.
I love this because at every forum I hear that she's going to do what we've been doing. Talking about transparency, it was after I was elected that we stopped having the officials committee meetings in executive session so that everyone could see all the financial reports of the party every month. Yeah. And we've actually posted some of those results publicly. And we have done the same. The reason why she can talk about my ice cream is because we did not refuse anyone the ability to come in and look at all of the reports, including every one of my expense reports. So we have been as open and as transparent as physically possible, and light years ahead of her biggest backer, our former chairman, Tom Meckler.
Well, I don't know if he's talking about my biggest backer financially or if he's talking about my biggest backer in person, because my biggest backer financially, folks, is yours truly right here. Because just like Donald Trump, this is a self-funded campaign. However, if you would like to donate, we have a button on our website, and we would be honored to have you join our team by contributing. Look, I have the figures. I have the reports. I have the expense reports and the FEC and the TEC reports. You need to see the truth.
Final middle, yeah.
Yeah, you can see the truth. Most of it's on our website. Almost all of it's been live streamed or recorded and available, which actually I'm finding very convenient, because if it weren't for the video recordings, then some of the claims about the past might actually stand. But they don't. Go watch the video for yourself.
All right, now for the next question. We'll start off with Chairman Dickey on this one. Where does engagement rank in your priorities for RPT, and what would your plan or strategy be for engagement?
Yeah, so engagement for me personally is a very important thing, and by that I mean growing the party in every single community in Texas. Every single community in Texas. And the difference is, when I came in, the party had a black employee and an Asian employee and a Hispanic employee dedicated to black engagement, Asian engagement, and Hispanic engagement. And it both bothered me that they were pigeonholed and that they were set up for failure. And they were set up for failure because their goals were not goals that would actually align with the party's goals. Their goals were how many events could you go to and how many people would you see? And there were literally no follow-ups from that. None. And so, as a result, once things started changing, once we promoted one of them, and one of them quit, and the other one tried to work through our expectations.
So what's interesting is that all three of those folks that were paid for by the RPT, that were professional engagement staff dedicated to spreading our message, our vision, our plan, to create Republicans and let people know who have our values that they really are Republicans, they just don't know it yet. Every single one of them has joined our team. because they understand exactly what's at stake. They understand the phenomenal job, how important it is to engage with the faith community. They understand how Texas demographics are changing, and in 2 years, folks, 2 years, Hispanic Texans, African American Texans, and Asian Texans will outnumber Caucasian Texans. If we don't do a better job, we are sunk as Republicans.
So to finish what I was going to say, so now instead of 3 paid people, we actually have dozens of volunteers. Now at the last forum, my opponent denigrated volunteers, so they can't possibly be as good as paid staff. I, of course, would not communicate that to every county chair and precinct chair in the entire state of Texas.
Well, as a precinct chair in the state of Texas, I know exactly how important volunteers are. And as the former Dallas area captain of the mighty Texas Strike Force, who got Donald Trump elected, helped get him elected, I absolutely know how important volunteers are in the state of Texas. But there's one thing that you can't do, and it's you can't hold volunteers accountable to your mission and vision that you have set out, because their time is their time. And you have got to encourage them to be active, but you can't compel it.
Thank you all both. They are now kind of keeping on a similar vein of questioning. We've got a number of questions along the topic of staffing and operations and so forth. So continuing there, starting with you, Cindy Asche. What do you understand to be the current organization of RPT staff? And do you see a need for any changes, and if so, why?
So the current organization of RPT staff, you need to understand this. One thing that's very important, the engagement staff that we have is funded completely by the RNC. The field director and the political director that we have in the state of Texas, we're not even funding them. We are so incredibly thankful for the RNC and the money that they are pouring into Texas. I believe it was $44,000 last month in order to pay for that staff. We pay our political director directly by the RNC, and everyone else is funded by the RNC. Look, we are Texans. We are self-sufficient. We're thankful for the money that they are contributing, but we have got to be able to do our job ourselves, because what if they decide to move those resources to another battleground state? Who will carry the torch then?
So I've heard my opponent mention this a bunch of times, and if she had been around in party operations for a while, she would know that what she is suggesting is actually illegal. So no, we are very happy that the RNC is donating more than double already this far in my tenure what the RNC was donating at all during Chairman Meckler's tenure. I'm very happy about that. I'm also very happy that the RNC did agree that we would share the state director as our political director, not just saving us money, but making our coordination, communication, and cooperation better than it has ever been before. But no, we pay for all of our field staff, and the RNC does donate us money. That is not the same as the RNC paying all of our field staff. Thank you.
It's very easy to parse words. The money comes from the RNC. The political director is paid directly by the RNC. Our field staff is funded by the RNC. And that is the truth. And the RNC, by the way, is going to open up 6 offices across the state of Texas so that we can do a better job. But if they pull out of the state of Texas, who will pay for that?
And the answer is, who will pay for that is the donors who have stepped up in an amazing way in the last year. which is why we have dozens of large donors that we have never had before. More large donors than we have ever had in a similar 12-month period in years. We also, if you look at the donations so far, fundraising from all sources so far this year, first 4 months of this year, it's over $621,000 in the first 4 months of this year, which is more than any year going back to 2012. And it's every single category of fundraising is above the goal.
Okay, all right, the next question, starting off with Chairman Dickey, going along the same line still. How and where does RPT spend money, and should it change?
We spend as little as we can every time. Where do we spend our money? We spend our money in field operations. We spend our money in staff to help county chairs. We spend our money in staff to do the accounting and the reporting. As you can imagine, the ethics reporting for the FEC, the TEC is extensive. And we have an amazing accounting staff that has been on since before Chairman Munisari. They've been on for 8 years. They do an amazing job. We also have a full-time now fundraiser, which is part of why the fundraising numbers have been so amazing. And then we have communications, which is why our email fundraising, our online fundraising is better than it's ever been. And that's why we have such great communication, including those weekly updates you get and everything else you see from the party. It is really, it's money spent directly on the ground.
So I am so thankful for the financial staff of the RPT because they have been there and doing an amazing job. They're the ones, oh my doggone. Should I just yell? They are the ones completing the FEC and the TEC reports that we have taken this information from. The financial information that you need to see. And folks, it tells an entirely different picture than the story that you are hearing about fundraising. We have not seen the greatest month in the history of the universe in November. In fact, there were 9 months under the previous chairman that beat that record. And it's because of that staff that we have confidence in those numbers. Do we need to have professional engagement staff? I absolutely believe that we do, so that we can task them with our mission and vision so that they can continue to do the things that they were doing before they left the team and joined our team.
We've lost our way.
She's right, November was not a record, which is why the press release about the record month was for March. March was a record. And March was a record, the best fundraising month in 5.5 years.
So how much was that fundraising? How much was that March? The records indicate that there are 9 months that are bigger than any month that he has had, any one of them. You need to look carefully at the financial information because, folks, I'm telling you that it doesn't make sense what we're hearing, and that is a concern.
Well, I got the time thing and I'm following the rules.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to the next question, probably getting close to closing out this topic, but it's related. We have a series of questions along these lines, particularly given the funding that the RNC is now supplying, which I think they did under Steve Munisari as well. When that comes to an end again, assume if it does, then how do you plan to raise money and implement a statewide field program without the RNC's assistance? Cindy Asche.
So look, one of the things that we have seen is that we have some major donors that have always contributed to the party in the past, who have pulled back from donating. And we have got to go back to those donors and get money. Did you know that one of the largest contributors to the RPT has been Governor Greg Abbott? And we are so thankful for him. And then you have one of your own right here in Houston, Ms. Wall, who contributed an enormous amount. But we have got to go back. And we are so thankful for them. But we have got to do a better job. We have got to pull those folks back in who have contributed to the party for years, who are no longer donating because they have lost confidence in the job, in the mission that we are doing, and in the leadership that is leading our party.
Wow, okay, so first of all, for those who have paid attention to the SREC meetings, you know that there are different kinds of money there for the party. There's the operating funds, which every time I talk about how much money I've raised, I only focus on the operating funds. And then there is the convention funds. This year's convention, $1.6 million that we have raised. Every time I talk to you about how much we raised or whether we had a record month, I'm not even including that. I'm not including the fact that $558,000 has been raised from corporate and political sponsors for that convention for this year, setting a record for any convention in RPT history. That's separate. I'm also not talking about victory, and I'm also not talking about the CRC. So when she talks about there are better months, she's lumping all that together and saying there are some better months on all that stuff, which is lovely, but that has to do with George P. Bush or Commissioner Craddock. That has nothing to do with prior chairs or comparative performance of chairs, and if she'd been around, she wouldn't know that.
Actually, that's not true at all. And I have been around, and I have the facts. And the reports actually show that. And I'm not talking about money from this and money from that. I'm talking bottom line money that we have to spend on RPT business. As of right now, folks, at the last end of April, we had $525,000 that was unrestricted. That's it. That's less than 5 months operating expenses. And we only had $114,000 in our victory fund that we will spend $1.2 million or more on.
We talk about this almost every forum. I'll finally go ahead and rebut it. Yes, there's not a lot of money in the victory account right now because victory just started. That's kind of how it works. It's a general election fund, and for those of you who know, there was actually an election yesterday. Now the primaries are over.
Okay, all right, the next question. We're switching topics a little bit here. This will go to Chairman Dickey. How should RPT work with other GOP organizations such as Republican Women's, Young Republicans, etc.?
Well, I have been really glad with the way that a lot of Republican organizations have stepped up and become auxiliaries, become coalitions, and become more active with us. We've actually had more interaction with the high school Republicans, college Republicans, young Republicans, and a whole bunch of others than we have in the past. Now, I am disheartened by how difficult it has been for me to get the reception and interaction from the Republican women that I had hoped for. I was disheartened when they turned down my repeated appeals to speak at their convention. But Garrett Peel is a great guy and a great friend, and I'm glad he was able to speak there. And I went above and beyond to change our rules to make it easier, since they could not be an auxiliary, that they could become a coalition. And I asked for them to become a coalition. And I have done other things as well to reach out. I hope we can do well.
So let me tell you the truth about that story. So the truth about conventions is, you know, they're planned months in advance. And as the leading female representative of the RPT, Amy Clark was asked to speak at the TFRW convention. And that was before the leadership change. And it was planned months in advance. Then the leadership changed, and but it was measured down to the minute who had time to be able to speak. And Teresa Kosmowski actually spoke with Mr. Dickey at an event and said, and he said, I'm happy to come speak. I'm happy to do anything I can to help. And she said, I got it planned down to the minute, but if something opens up, I'll let you know. She received 2 phone calls from staff saying he wants to come speak. But unfortunately, Ms. Clark was already scheduled and there was no more time allotted. My time's going to run out, so I'll finish in rebuttal. But the story that you're being told is absolutely not correct.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to tell a story. I was trying to make the point that I'm very much interested in working together and will do whatever I can do to make that happen. As evidenced by the very public connection to TFRW from our website, even though they are not currently a coalition or auxiliary.
So the truth about that is, as soon as the current chairman took office, the website connection, the link to click to TFRW was removed from the RPT website. That's the truth. And the truth is that we have told him numerous times, our presidents have told him numerous times, our bylaws forbid us from being a coalition or an auxiliary. So we're not free to accept that, but under other chairmen, we have always had a seat at the table. We have always had a voice because we represent, as TFRW, more than 2 million volunteer hours to elect Republican candidates.
All right, well, thank you. So sort of keeping in this theme, that we have a lot of cats to herd within our party. How will you, I guess we'll start with Cindy Asche, as RPT chair, how will you encourage all groups in the Republican Party of Texas orbit to work for the common good and come to the table rather than making sure you don't appear to favor one faction over another?
I think bringing unity to this party is the #1 issue that we face. Because folks, our enemy is the Democrat, and he is out there, and his buddy George Soros is throwing millions of dollars into Texas because they know that the only thing standing between California and New York is Texas. And the only thing preventing them from complete takeover of this country is Texas. I forgot the question. How's that? How will I bring the party together? How will I bring the party together? The most important thing is we had first-time voters in 2016 for Donald Trump that we need to bring back in the party. I was honored to work as a Mighty Texas Strike Force member, bringing those people, electing Donald Trump. It is going to be very difficult for someone who was a free the delegates person to bring those people back in to vote for Republicans again.
We're here. So, yeah, how do we get unified? I got asked that a lot when I ran the first time, and the easy thing is we focus on the things we agree on and can work together on. That's how we get unified. And that's what we've been doing, and it's had a great effect. It's had a great effect in the legislature, it's had a great effect with donors, it's had a great effect at the polls with voters. But it also has an impact in the workings of the party. In the SREC, the 3 meetings before I was elected chair, the average vote rate was only 3 votes per meeting, and the prior chair had to make or break a tie 4 times. And since then, in the 5 meetings we've had 9 votes every meeting, and not one has come even close to a tie. Because when we focus on those things we agree, we are more effective, and we can focus on winning together, which is exactly why we had record turnout this primary, and we'll do it in November.
So the truth is, about the votes that we've been having, is 1, we have electronic voting systems now that they're able to cast votes and count those votes in about 2 minutes. And 2, what you have just heard is an absolute fabrication because in the most important vote that we have recently had at the SREC, Mr. Dickey broke the tie to censure Joe Strauss.
So she said I voted to break the tie. My vote put the vote at 70%. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't call that a tie.
But that's okay, we're glad you voted.
More clarification.
Thank you.
So there are a number of SREC members here in the room, and they will tell you that if Amy Clark cast her vote, it tied the vote, and for the chairman to cast his vote, it broke the tie. I understand that a lot of us were not in favor of Joe Strauss. I understand that, and you need to know that I supported my friend and opponent when he ran against Mr. Strauss. However, the message that it sent across the state was that if you're not our kind of Republican, you do not have a place in this party.
So the interesting thing is when my opponent says that it sent a bad message, and yet literally on stage on Saturday, she spent minutes talking about Republicans she didn't want in the party. So, again, I know math is hard, but the rule is, Rule 44, if you know Rule 44, Rule 44 is it takes effect if 2/3 of the vote gets cast. So yes, when Amy and I cast our votes together, we passed it to 70%. Not to break a tie, to meet the required threshold, but the required threshold was not a majority. It was not a straight tie. It was to put us over 2/3. Again, not a tie.
Next question is starting off with Chairman Dickey. What can you do to try to herd all the cats so that elected officials, grassroots, and major donors all feel that the RPT is successful?
Well, that's what we've been doing. When we focus on those things, we agree. When we focus on the platform items you all have done, and you know, there's a lot of stress about Speaker Strauss during the special election, right? During the special session. But if you watch the last article he was quoted in, his spokesperson quoted plank number 121 by number in the article. We have been focused on the things we agree on and focused on the fact that you all set them as our platform, and that has led to vote records, that has led to donation records, and that has led to great results with our elected officials and our governor and our lieutenant governor and our Speaker of the House.
And a coming together of the grassroots.
And a coming together of the grassroots. Thank you.
All right, I'll repeat the question. What can you do to try to herd all the cats so that elected officials, the grassroots, and major donors all feel that the RPT is successful?
So this is a really big challenge that we have as Republicans in the state of Texas. Are we telling folks in the state of Texas who are not as conservative as I am, who do not agree with me on every issue that I stand for, and I promise you, I am one of the most conservative people you will ever meet. Are we telling Republicans across the state that you're not a good enough Republican? You need to go vote somewhere else. Okay, so folks, where is that somewhere else that they need to go vote? Do they need to go vote for the Democrats? Do you want that? Or do we want to encourage people who agree with us on 95% of everything we stand for to vote Republican? across this state. Because if we don't set our sights on the Democrats and unite this party, I promise you, I've seen it happen in Dallas County. I've seen it happen in Travis County. It's in Bexar County. It will flip blue.
Yeah, this is exactly why we focus on the platform. And this is also why I would caution you to think very seriously. You all will get to decide not just what's in the platform, but how long is it? And one of the things I will caution you to think about, people who have argued that it should be shorter, in many cases are arguing that it should be very short and only a handful of very vague things. What it is now is a resource guide that we turn to every time a reporter calls us, every time a legislator calls us, every time somebody else calls us and says, will you do this thing? We check the guide.
So actually what we've done is we have sent out a questionnaire to legislators asking them if they will support the platform in its entirety. And then we have held them accountable to every plank in the platform. Have you read the entire platform? Depending on how you read it, it's either 260 or 266 planks, including things about hemp production and unpasteurized milk, raw milk. It is freedom. We are all about freedom. But we are also about uniting Republicans around our core principles.
Okay, since we've kind of segued into this topic, I have a couple of questions relating to the platform. I'll try to turn, well, let's just see. Starting with Cindy Asche, what do you consider the 3 most important issues in the RPT platform? Let's just do 1 minute, then I'll have a follow-up to that.
So as a conservative Republican, I will always stand for pro-life, always. If we are not pro-life Republicans, we lose every time. We have got to stand for life. Second, we have got to stand for personal responsibility. We are the party of personal responsibility, and we hold all elected officials accountable to that. And thirdly, let's see, what else is ultra important? That all of our principles are important. We support the Second Amendment. We support freedom of religion. Folks, if we lose religious liberty in the state of Texas, in this country, then all of our other liberties are at risk. We have got to stand for all of these things that we believe in, the Constitution, limited government, all of those things. All of our principles are important, every last one of them.
So I'm not just going to tell you what I think is important, I'll tell you what I've done about it. Life is absolutely the cornerstone of everything else, right? There's a reason it starts life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Right. And life comes first, which is why back in 2013, I was in the middle of that almost satanic environment when they were chanting and we were fighting for HB2. And we got attacked. And much more needs to be done, and thankfully our platform is very strong on this, and we are working on it, and I love that, and that is wonderful. And then we have the Second Amendment, the one that protects all the rest. That's right. And the Second Amendment, that's why I was the only county chair who showed up to testify for constitutional carry at the last. And time's up.
Well, I don't really have a rebuttal because all of the principles in our platform are important. Every one in the very beginning, all of the ones that we say we will censure someone if they don't follow the principles in our platform, those are all critical. And I absolutely believe that as Republicans, we can unite around those principles, every one of them. There are some folks that don't agree with us on every last bit in the platform, and Mr. Dickey has said himself that that's okay. But those principles are core, and we have got to unite around them.
I think it's amazingly powerful when we switched last convention to doing individual voting on every one of our platforms. Because when I testified in the session, I was able to say 95% of the delegates of the convention supported constitutional grant. I'm so excited about doing that again, God willing, and assuming you guys keep the rules that way. Thank you.
All right, so this next question will go to Chairman Dickey, and it kind of follows up on the last one. What parts of the RPT platform do you not agree with?
Okay, well, actually, we've had a good example. There is probably no more important vote that our legislators will take this time than the speaker, the vote for Speaker of the House. And so our members in the House, they're going to take that. And in our platform, and I've had this discussion with every one of them, in our platform, we don't try to mandate who they should vote for. But we did put forth a process. We said it's critical that you and the caucus agree, and then after the caucus has made a decision, you all go to the floor and you vote for the Republican caucus choice for Speaker.
No.
That is absolutely critical. Well, in that plank, it said vote by majority. When the caucus actually met, they decided on a process that would shoot for 2/3 and then drop to 60%. And their point was that if somebody only got a bare majority, that would be risky, and I tend to agree.
I think that's a very good point about the speaker and the caucus. I will not take issue with that at all. I have said, and I absolutely believe, that we need to strengthen Rule 44, which is the censure rule. Because, let me ask you this, they have to violate 3 principles in our platform. Do we have the ability to censure someone who posts a naked selfie of themselves? Are we going to censure, are we compelled to censure every person who votes for a speaker that we don't like? Yes. Does it take more than 1 vote in order to be censured? In other words, if you pass a bill that we think is so abhorrent, can we censure you for your 1 vote on that bill? We saw that happen in SD caucuses in the state, where 4 legislators were censured in that caucus because of 1 bill and 1 vote on that 1 bill. So I think that Rule 44 and the censure needs to be amended.
So this is less a rebuttal than just a moment. Censure just means a public statement of disapproval. And we believe in freedom of speech, so actually every EC has the ability and right to censure anybody at any time for any reason or no reason, right? Whatever they decide. Rule 44 is a specific set of processes with a lot of protections in it to ensure that censure with penalties has to meet certain bars. And yes, it's your decision at convention what those are.
The penalties can be restricting access to RPT funds and RPT resources. So censure is no light matter, and we need to be able to make sure that we use it very carefully. And it cannot be weaponized in order that people who are displeased with one particular vote can then censure their representative. That will cheapen what the censure is all about, and we cannot do that. We have to be better than that.
All right, next question. Sort of synthesize about 10 of them that we got. Starting with Cindy Asche, trying to make this neutral. Do you feel any particular outside group has too much or too little influence on the state party? And if yes, what can be done to change it?
I'm not sure the answer to that question, that any particular outside group has too much influence on the state party. I will say that there is a move afoot in Texas that would like very much to see their national platform stands for recreational marijuana. It is pro-choice. It is not secure borders. It is not pro-Israel. And their national platform concerns me immensely. They have been, they're not called Democrats. They actually are called the Republican Liberty Caucus. And they have been brought in. I read the platform. You need to read the platform of the national platform. It is absolutely pro-choice. It is absolutely not for secure borders. And it is absolutely pro-recreational marijuana. That is not Texas. That is not Texas. And we should not be allowing those influences.
What happened to party unity?
So the question is there any a single outside group that has too much or too little influence? No, of course not. We're a party of freedom and free association. And we welcome everyone to participate who agrees with us on any of our issues. That's why we changed that's why we changed our rules around coalitions, so that more people could partner with us. And the way we win and the way we even things out is the same way we grow the party. It's by focusing on those things we agree on and working with everyone we could possibly work with toward that end, so that we win hearts and minds while we also win votes and donations. Thank you.
So is our platform important? And do organizations that don't agree with our platform, absolutely, they need to have a seat at the table. But are they going to influence us as Republicans to do things that are absolutely contrary to our platform? I will never, ever be able to support recreational marijuana in the state of Texas, ever, period. And any organization that does is not meeting in line with our platform.
So again, those of you who've read our rules, the rules differentiate very clearly between our principles and our platform. And why is that? Because our principles are held to be unchanging, timeless, crucial, key elements. The principles are things, like my opponent said, about pasteurized milk and other issues that you guys at convention get to debate about whether it changes. So the idea that at convention you should never have someone who disagrees with any item on the platform is ludicrous, because that's where you argue about the platform.
All right, we've asked both of the candidates to prepare questions for each other. We'll start with Chairman Dickey, and Cindy will have 60 seconds, and then you'll ask your question, and Chairman Dickey, you'll have 60 seconds.
Given your main donors on your last report, because your money was a loan, your main donors were Norm Adams of Texas Solution infamy, and Tom Meckler, who had at best a troubled legacy as chair. Why should anyone expect you to represent anything but a return to the past you'd rather leave behind?
So I take issue with that, of course, because the #1 donor to my campaign was myself. And because I am an independent Republican, and I don't think that the people that are backing me are standing for a return to the past. I think they are standing for integrity. I think they are standing for honesty. I think they absolutely believe that we need a change because of those specific issues, and because we need a change in transparency as well. You deserve to be able to know everything that we are doing, and you deserve to have a chairman with a history and a record of integrity, of saying what they mean, meaning what they say, and keeping their word in every case. So Chairman Dickey, are there currently any paid staff members or consultants who are receiving funds from the RPT who are also working on your campaign, and have you or they utilized RPT resources for your campaign?
There's actually a rule that says very clearly staff is not allowed to work on any intra-party contest. So no, there is no staffer who is working on any intra-party contest, including mine. The rule does not specify consultants because every single consultant we have works on intra-party contests. And one of the consultants we currently have, we have 5 on staff right now, and anybody who listened in on Monday night's officials committee actually already heard all of this because we're transparent. There is one consultant who is paid to advise the party on communication. So when we get prepared to do a statement, they literally check the statement for grammar and efficiency and effectiveness and accuracy with the platform and matching with the platform. She is also separately consulting for my campaign on the communications I send out because I want to make sure my communications are all also the same.
Well, Charlie got to this topic of ask a staff-related question. Do you believe the party should rely primarily on, the state party should rely primarily on permanent staff or on external consultants to accomplish the party's work? And if you think, compare the current status of the way the party has staff and consultants versus how you think the party should be run. Start with Cindy Asche.
So one of the things about consultants is that we have a rule in the RPT that says if you spend over $25,000 on any particular item, it needs to be approved by the SREC. So if it is staff, then their contract needs to be approved. However, if you use consultants, what has been done is, very transparent, is that those consultants have not been subject to that SREC oversight. So a consultant can be paid $2,500 a month, and several have been paid that much or more, but their contract, they don't have a contract because the current leadership says that it is the letter of the law instead of the intent of the law, and those folks are not subject to SREC review, and the expenses that we're spending are not subject to the SREC review. They are at the discretion of the chairman to spend those funds.
Okay, so again, if you were listening on Monday night, you heard the discussion around this, and my opponent got about half of it right. First of all, any at-will employee also does not have to have anything approved. So if this were a game to try to somehow get around approval, it wouldn't work because either an employee, staff, or a consultant, either way, doesn't have to be approved if the rule is not triggered. And that's because the rule isn't what she said it was. The rule is not any consultant that might end up someday maybe possibly costing you $25,000. It is no contract can make the SREC liable for $25,000 or more. And if you do a contract that says you owe $1,000 and it might go 80 months and it's 1,000 times 80, that is not the same as making you liable for $25,000. That is the intent and the spirit and the letter of the rule.
So the second half of my question that he ran out of time to answer was, have you or your consultants utilized any RPT resources for your campaign? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. In fact, they utilized the RPT website and put a link to Chairman Dickey's campaign website underneath his name on the website. So that is transparent.
So actually, that link, just like the link to Governor Abbott's website and every other candidate's website on the every other office holder, every other office holder on the, listed on our website was there until I had a challenger and someone brought it to my attention. Now, what was nice about that is no one had ever brought it to anyone's attention that the governor's website was linked to all during the primary, which actually is in violation of our rule that says we will be impartial during a primary. So now we know the staff's been notified and we won't do it again.
All right, the next set of questions, the counties will be very county specific. The next set of questions are county specific. So this has to do with Fort Bend County. It will be directed first to Chairman Dickey. In Fort Bend County, we have been growing at a very rapid rate, growing from 360,000 people in 2000 to over 800,000 currently. As our state controller, Clint Hager, likes to remind us, across Texas, we have an additional 1,100 people moving to Texas every day. What do you feel the party can do to invite these new voters into our party? And what's the message we need to send to these new voters as to why our state is better led by Republicans?
Okay, well, as a county chair in Travis County, where 1,000 of those people a week were coming in, even 4 years ago when I was first county chair there, we went to work on this pretty seriously. And what we are doing right now, one of the things our political director is overseeing is we are doing the new mover mailings. So any Republican moving from another state who comes here, if they were in a state where you register by party, if we know they're coming in and they are Republican, we are automatically reaching out to them to encourage them to register to vote here, to make sure that we get them plugged in and we take advantage of the fact that they're coming in. We did a lot of analysis in Travis County, and even into Travis County and even from California, it was breaking about 50-50 Republican versus Democrat, which was better than what we had in Travis County and much better than what California has. Because there was a lot of self-selection of the more conservative.
So one of the most important things that we do, that we need to be about doing, is engaging folks that have our values. And we need to be about dealing with those folks who are moving into the state of Texas. And as Alan West said, we need to create a billboard campaign that says, welcome to Texas, the state of good government, the state of lower taxes, the state of clean air, the state of all of our positive things. And please leave your California politics, or wherever you came from, please leave them at the border if you want to keep this state the great way that it is. So in order to be able to do that, we need an engagement staff. And in order to be able to have an engagement staff, we have to raise more money. Because folks, the numbers show that we don't have enough.
We have, going back to the question about consultants versus staff, we have been changing up how consultants are used. So for example, in the past, consultants were on contract to raise funds for the party, and said that actually is working better with a full-time staffer. We have done comms on contract. We have found that to be better. So we have been testing and experimenting with a whole bunch of different things, and only progressing with what works.
What was that? I'm sorry, I thought someone said something about that they wanted me to respond to. Look, we have got to get the vote out and respond to our enemy, who is the Democrat in the fall. And we have got to engage young Republicans. By the way, did you know that there was a poll that's sponsored by the Young Republicans? Who would you choose for chair? 73, 20 something, 74, 26. We won that. Hands down. Because what, sir?
Let's not, come on, let's not yelling, all right? Okay, continue with the county-specific questions. I've got kind of a long one here with a little backstory. In 2012, when Steve Ministeri was state chair, I worked with him somewhat, but he had RPT drop about $250,000 into Harris County late in the campaign to help out here in Harris County. So when I took office 4 years ago, I pledged that Harris County would no longer be a missionary outpost for the state party, and let the state party focus on places where there was not an infrastructure, Hidalgo, elsewhere, West Texas and other places. So the Harris County Republican Party now has, I think, a campaign operation and budget larger than the state party here in Harris County. So this year we had the longest ballot in the country in Harris County, the largest budget we've ever had, and a unified effort from working with from Senator Cruz through with all of our congressional candidates. We actually have joint fundraising operations with for instance, with Congressman Culberson this year. We've been working with Governor Abbott's campaign for over a year, Lieutenant Governor Patrick's campaign, with our county judge here and the commissioners, as well as the 75 judicial candidates we have in Harris County. And we're actually out working all down to the level of constables and mayors as a broad, unified effort to win Harris County because it is such a battleground county. So, given that background, do you think the state party should get wade into local Harris County politics to hire a consultant or conduct campaigns in Harris County, or should the state party keep its focus elsewhere in the state where they don't have the resources we have here in Harris County? Cindy.
I don't think we need a consultant in Harris County. Obviously, you have a great county chairman here in Harris County that is doing a phenomenal job. And we don't need a consultant here in Harris County. And so if we've been spending money on a consultant in Harris County, we need to move those resources somewhere else. Look, it is very, very critical that we give county chairmen across the state the resources they need. And in Hidalgo County, in the Rio Grande Valley, in Laredo, in El Paso, they need resources very, very different than they need here in Harris County, who obviously needs nothing except support to run their election. And I'm not even sure, Chairman Simpson, that you even need that.
Well, as you and I know, as you and I both know, Paul, we've talked about this ad infinitum. I've had extensive conversations with the governor's staff, lieutenant governor's staff, and you about the need to make sure that Harris County judges win their races this year. I use Harris County 2016 as my example when people in other counties say, well, is it a terrible idea that we're switching off of straight ticket voting in 2020? And my response is, I don't know. I can't tell you what the unintended consequences will be, but I can tell you we would not have had the massacre we had if it had not been for straight ticket voting. So, yeah, as you and I have talked, we are focused on getting every single.
One of the things that a county chairman is responsible for doing is recruiting candidates to run on the Republican ballot. And you have heard great things from our current chairman about what a great job he did in Travis County. Unfortunately, when he was chair in Travis County, there were 21 races with no Republican running. And the majority of those races were judges. So I'm telling you, I grew up in Travis County. The only way you do that is you get people to run in those races.
Well, I'm glad that she brought this up. 17 of those 21 races were countywide judge races. And she says when he was chair, as if this is a new thing, it's been existent for a while. She's right, she grew up in Austin. And in fact, her dad is a very accomplished lawyer practicing in Travis County. So the real question is, why for 20 years has your dad never volunteered to run for judge or any of the other qualified lawyers who are in Travis County? So I would not cast that stone.
yeah, that concludes the questioning. Now we're going to go to closing statements. As discussed earlier, Cindy Asche will give her closing statement up to 5 minutes, and then James Dickey will give his.
So the reason my dad never ran for judge in Travis County was because he was too busy serving as the national committee man for the state of Texas for 8 years with the utmost integrity and honor. And oh, by the way, then he served as general counsel for the Republican National Committee. So that's why he was a little too busy running for judge. And by the way, he never wants me to tell you how old he is because he's afraid I'll run off clients. But he is still practicing law full-time in Austin. And there is no man on the face of the earth with greater integrity who has brought more honor to God, to Texas, and to his family, and I will chase that bar of integrity every day of my life. And if elected your chairman, I will stand for the utmost of integrity. Look, folks, you have heard that we have a lot of transparency. You have heard that the numbers are great. I'm telling you that the numbers that we have from the TEC reports and the FEC reports are the true story. Unfortunately, our current chairman has a history of being able to mislead people about the numbers involved in finances. And that is a reality. And so when you look at the numbers, especially the financial numbers across the state, I would implore you to go and get those numbers. We have them available. I will give you copies, have them sitting right here with me. And you can look at the numbers, and then you can decide for yourself if the blonde girl can read a financial report or not. Because I promise you that I have budgeted millions of dollars more than the RPT budget. Even as president of the Homeowners Association for 4 years, our budget was bigger than the RPT. And so folks, I'm telling you, I absolutely believe and know in my heart of hearts that we don't have the money to do the things that we need to be doing as Republicans across the state. We have got to unite folks around our common values, just exactly like Ronald Reagan said. I would rather have a Republican who votes with me on 80% of the issues, 80% of the time, than a Democrat ever who will not vote with me on anything. And it is critical that we focus our efforts on the Democrats. We have a mission. The weight, maybe, of the very country is on our shoulders. Because if we lose Texas, we lose this country. And that is not an exaggeration. The only reason we have been able to elect a Republican president is because of the state of Texas. And it is so absolutely important that we are able to bring those folks back into the party who voted for the first time for Donald Trump. It would be my honor to serve you with unquestioned integrity, with unquestioned transparency. If we're going to use consultants, their salary will be brought before the SREC and it will be approved. If we have an intra-party race, we will never allow anyone to utilize RPT resources, and I will not hire consultants who are consulting on other races, like right here in Houston, like the RPT chairman. I absolutely believe that as Republicans, we should be held to a higher standard, because guess what? Our enemy would like nothing better than to make a laughingstock out of the claims that we make about integrity. Because remember, we're the platform that we're the folks that wanted to keep God in the platform. We're the folks that have a higher moral compass. We should be held accountable to a higher standard, and our elected official and the chairman of the RPT should be the person with the unquestioned highest integrity. It would be my honor to represent you as the next state chairman. May God bless each and every one of you, and may He continue to bless the great state of Texas, the greatest state in this great nation. Thank you.
So we have accomplished some great things during the last year. The biggest is energizing our grassroots. As we have seen the impact that you guys can have, that when we are working together, when the party is acting as your megaphone and your amplifier and reinforcing the things that you asked for and that you wanted, the results are amazing. And the results are reported all over the place. The vote totals are reported by the Secretary of State. The candidate totals are reported by the county parties. But we set a record, I didn't talk about this earlier, 3,862 Republican candidates on the primary ballot this year, a gubernatorial year record for candidates as well. When we work together on those issues that we have decided represent the Republican Party, the results are amazing. And you've seen tonight and you've heard tonight that, yes, you can have a great set of experience running an operation. That is not the same as raising funds for a political party. It is drastically different. And yes, I would know. And the results we have seen are exactly what we need to continue doing. Yeah, we talked about the need to unify. We unify around our principles, but we also unify after we get past the primary. We did that yesterday. We finished our primary and our runoffs yesterday. And now it is time to come together and work to get all of our candidates statewide elected in November.
Great.
You know, I've heard a lot of, we've done a lot of these. And if I've heard it, twice, I've heard it, 287 times, a claim toward integrity. Well, the great Margaret Thatcher said, it's like being a lady. If you have to say you are one, you're not. No one has to guess. First of all, it's ironic that we've got a candidate for Republican Party chair who is trying to claim that government claims against one of us are all valid, right? Has anybody paid attention to, I don't know, the FBI lately, or what's happening to the Attorney General, or what's happening to our president? Government bureaucrats get stuff wrong. Right? I've actually heard that before. I've actually heard that. And it's ironic. It's ironic that that we've got a candidate who is claiming that they are absolutely perfect, that there is no chance that they were at all mistaken. You don't have to figure out what might or might not have happened 20 years ago in 2001. You don't have to decide about 2006 was the lawsuit. The claims were around 2001. You don't have to decide what happened in 2001.
And there's no non-disclosure.
What you do have is your own eyes. You can see what the party has accomplished and what has happened here and in Travis County over years. And you guys, as with everything else our party does, you get to decide what matters. And you get to decide what principles you want in your platform, what rules you want to operate under. If you decide that a rule ought to be tweaked, this is where you do it, at the convention. And you get to decide who you trust with being your delegate for the next 2 years. And do you want someone who has been proven to fight an uphill battle for the voters who elected him as a delegate, or not? Because I tell you, the one thing I can guarantee you, and the one thing you have seen, is I will fight for my delegates. And I will fight for those who elect me. And I ask you, elect me, re-elect me, to be your state party chair. God bless you.
Please give both candidates a round of applause for all their hard work and being here and taking steps and inviting me. Fellowship here will have some pictures taken, but thank y'all for being here this evening. It's going to be a spirited campaign here on out, and certainly after the convention, we're going to be driving on to November for victory then. Thank y'all very much.